Hey, we're back. I'm your host, BKP. Good morning from Circuit World here in Blue Ridge. A little cold Friday morning in Blue Ridge, but not bad. We could be other places. So we could be way up there in Maine where they're experiencing a blizzard mixed with flooding and storms. So to our friends in other areas, it's really cold, but we're in Blue Ridge. Glad to have you back, Dr. Whaley. Thank you, Georgia Cancer Specialist. Glad to have you back. I love the tie. Thank you. I love the red sweater. All going together. Did you enjoy your holiday, sir?
I really did. And day before yesterday morning, I woke up on the beach in Cartagena at 80 degrees and flew to Blue Ridge, and it was 10. So it was culture shock.
Well, you know, sometimes you take those trips. Yeah, it's called. You have to dress for getting off the plane.
I did.
Not on the plane.
Yeah, I did. But as well as you can dress as summer type clothes to get off a plane in Atlanta when it's 20. Well, listen, I was interested in listening to what you had to say this morning. I'm really proud of my president. I'm proud of the stock market going to 25,000. I wish I owned some stock, but I don't. We were talking about your Georgia prediction, and I want to tell you about my red shirt, because I know you haven't read your emails yet this morning, or you would have mentioned it. But I sent you an email of a very touching scene that had occurred in the Atlanta airport about a young girl of 6 years old who hugged a soldier and asked him to take this gift to her dad. Did you read it? If not, there would be a group of soldiers marching through the airport. This little girl asked this soldier to take this to his dad. He said, "What was it?" He walked over and gave her a hug. Soldier got up, got a walkie-talkie. There were about 50 of them there. They scrambled back and forth on the walkie-talkie. He walked back over to the little girl and he said, "I just talked to your dad. He wants me to give you this," and he gave her a little kiss. And it was a really nice scene, but it was the introduction to Red Friday, which starts today. Now, we think Red Friday means the Atlanta Stadium is going to be full of red Alabama and red Georgia, but Red Friday is beginning today. If you wear something red every Friday, it's a support the troops thing. So I'm supporting Georgia, and I got my troop flag on, so there you go.
Well, when you sent the email and Red Friday, I know I said, hey, I'm going to get both of them. I'm going to get both. I'm going to get my Georgia sweatshirt out and have wear my red in support of our troops. So
good.
I appreciate that. You know, you've been in New York too. I mean,
yeah, I was in New York for Christmas. 4 days in New York for Christmas. It was nice.
You've just been everywhere.
Yeah, I know. Jane's getting tired of it.
So, are you going to be home for a little bit?
Yeah, we'll have home for 4 or 6 weeks anyway.
Well, Dr. Whaley, we want to thank Georgia Cancer Specialist. Let's get to our questions this morning, and then we will obviously give Dr. Whaley an opportunity to close, as he always does, with something he's prepared or he would like to share with the audience. But this one is I'm going to say this one goes right to me. I have great interest in this because it happens to me. I have started having spasms in my hands. They cramp and they draw until I can't continue doing the same activity. Is there medication which can help? Now, I know this is probably a very broad, but I'll have this all of a sudden, that'll go like that, and I have had to do that.
Oh, my God. Are you kidding me or not?
No.
Is he serious? Oh, my God.
Dr. Whaley.
We've talked. How old are you?
I'm not telling
All right.
you how old.
Okay. All right. We've talked about foot cramps, leg cramps, nighttime cramps several times. You got several issues with the question. One, what is the age of the patient or the person? Two, what is the activity they're doing when they do it? Three, is it one hand only or is it both hands together?
Okay.
And all of those things make a serious difference. If it is both hands together, totally involuntary, then that's called bilateral carpo, that's the carpal bone, pedal spasm or cramping. And it can be a sign of low blood calcium, low blood magnesium, which are metabolic disorders. But the most common reason that it occurs is not particularly this time of year, and it has to do with either medication. You're taking a diuretic for high blood pressure, a small dose of diuretics in many high blood pressure medications. There are many, many women whose doctors have given them a water pill to take when they have a little bit of foot edema. So the side effect of a diuretic at a point where you may be a little bit dehydrated is carpal pedal spasm, and it can occur in one hand at a time. Generally, then it would occur in the dominant hand if you've been using that hand doing any activities. Now, there are bunches of neurological things that we don't need to discuss that can cause spasm and carpal pedal spasm. But at this time of year, it also is not uncommon. When I leave my house, yesterday morning it was 10 degrees on my porch. It's 3 degrees on my porch this morning down there next to the lake. The guys are already out with their hammers. They're building a house next door, and they're out there at 10 degrees. So their hands are going to be really cold today. We were talking about carpal tunnel and numbness and stuff a few weeks ago. They will have localized dehydration in their hands because of the humidity and the activity. So it would not be uncommon for a young person who worked outside the day in carpentry, for example, to have a spasm tonight when he's getting ready to go to bed or something. So the serious conditions and the things you have to worry about are if it's recurrent, it's interfering with your activity, then you've got to go see your doctor and have your blood test done. If it's a nuisance and it happens like you're describing it,
it's not often.
Right.
It's not like it's once a week, but when it does happen, I have had to pull my fingers
correct.
apart.
And it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot, actually, because that means that the muscle's in spasm, and it's just like those cramps that occur in your legs. You just got a lot more nerves. It'll hurt like the devil. But if it's frequent, if it's bilateral, if it's getting both hands, go see the doctor right away, because
it's both.
Both hands at the same time, like this. That's a systemic disorder, meaning that is in your body system. It's not a localized muscle cramp. Now, when you have cramps in your legs at night, it usually is bilateral. But when that happens, you need to go get somebody to look at it. And what they really do, they'll draw some blood. Your sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium are all okay. You're not on a diuretic or anything else, then they're going to tell you got benign carpal pedal spasm and forget about it. But if you're taking diuretics and so forth, the other thing is people really don't stay hydrated well this time of year. They think about it in the summer, right? We say drink plenty of fluids. But in the wintertime, we don't think about it so much, but the humidity is about 10% out there. You're still blowing off 750 milliliters to 1,000 milliliters of water per day in your breath, and you can become dehydrated in the winter. So stay hydrated. So that's enough about carpal pedal.
Well, I was going to ask, and I can understand that we need to move on, because I was going to ask if it could be, some of that could be due to occupational.
Yes.
Throughout the years.
Okay. I want to go back and pick on our staff over there who are both terribly fit and who work out all the time at the gym. This is really fairly common. If you get a woman who uses a pair of scissors, let's say it's Thanksgiving and she's cutting up a turkey and she's doing a lot of stuff with one hand, and it's not something that she does frequently, then that fatigue in that hand can cause spasm. If you get a guy who's not terribly active, and he goes out and he puts up a picket fence or he builds a doghouse or something, and he spends the day hammering. So that's unaccustomed activity. I mentioned earlier these guys that are out doing carpentry work. That's going to be in the dominant hand joint. It's going to be a right-handed job or a left-handed job. So that's the occupational or the activity thing that occurs simultaneous with dehydration and fatigue.
But moving right along, the concern is two hands.
Yeah,
two hands. That is
that's two hands at the same time is concerning. But the other thing, as I say, dehydration and sweating and calcium and magnesium supplementation people take. But there's lots of other things. If we're talking about a normal person, if you got somebody with kidney disease or anything underlying medical disorder, kidney disease if it's out of whack, different types of brain disorders, hyperthyroidism. One of the common ones that I forgot to mention, I probably should, is anxiety, psychiatric disorders, and hyperventilation. Everybody remembers when they were kids, when they took the little broom handle, they went around and around, they got dizzy, or when they did the and got dizzy. Well, that's hyperventilation. If you only increase your breathing from 11 breaths per minute to 12 breaths per minute because you're anxious, you can't tell the difference between 11 breaths a minute and 12 breaths a minute. But over a period of 30 minutes to an hour, 12 breaths a minute versus 11 breaths a minute will blow off enough carbon dioxide to where you then become alkalotic. And then you get spasms in your hands, you can get spasms in your head. That's when you start feeling chest pain and head tightness. It's all the same thing. And somebody will tell you, you're hyperventilating. Well, no, he's not hyperventilating. He looks like he's breathing normal to me. But he's breathing 1 breath a minute more than it takes to keep his oxygen right because of anxiety. That's the way people end up in the emergency room all the time. And they say there's nothing wrong with him. He was in here with chest pain, thought he was having a heart attack. We spent $4,000 doing tests, and he sent me home and said I was anxious. Well, that's the peak of the mountain of anxiety, hyperventilation. Down at the very bottom, the first symptoms can be tightness in the hands, itching or tingling in the face before you get the chest pain.
You know, Dr. Whaley, I've noticed throughout the doing this segment for a couple years now, something that always comes to the top is discussing sleep pattern, sleep disorders. It is something that continues to be something that people want information or to ask. And our next question, I noticed a distinct change in my sleep patterns. For 2 or 3 nights, I will sleep approximately 3 or 4 hours and wake up several times. And then 1 or 2 nights, I will sleep 8 hours. Should I check with my doctor?
Not yet. Can you show that great big old unmanageable chart there? No, we've got, we ought to have the TV up here showing us so I could see in this beautiful.
Actually, all we got to do is run an HD. We do it next week. We can run an HDMI.
We got an
right
HD TV here that's what was this thing? 4 gigabyte IBM NAACP television. I could see how good the.
Okay, Dr. Whaley, let's get back to the question. I don't mean to do it that way.
Okay, all right.
Let me try. Let me try to pull you back to the sleep
all right,
question.
anyway, I can see how good the thing can be seen. This big old chart shows psychiatric, neurological, medical conditions, medications, infections, and independent and other disorders that are associated with disrupted sleep. Okay? You can't read it, and it's way too big. Pull it off and put on the next one. All right. Now, I'm going to read you about the basic rules of sleep, and then we're going to come back to the question. So what we really have here is we have somebody who says, I sleep well for 2 or 3 nights, then 3 nights in a row I'm not sleeping well. Is that something I need to go see the doctor about? And I'm going to tell you basically at the end of the day, I think not. That great big list of sleeping disorders, none of them have that particular pattern. So here's the basic, call them Whaley's basic rules for sleep hygiene. Everybody's going to think it's nuts, but sleep as much as you need to feel rested and then get out of bed. So you're not sitting around in the bed drinking coffee. The bed is, you already know in the sleep hygiene, I've said once before, that you don't eat in the toilet, you don't toilet in the kitchen, so you use the bedroom, you don't write letters, you don't watch television, you don't read books, you go to the bed and your mind says I'm going to sleep, and you go in there and you take your clothes off, you get in bed, shut the lights out. As long as you think the bed is a place to watch television and to read books and so forth, then you have a psychological aversion to going to sleep in your bedroom. Second, keep a regular sleep schedule. None of us probably do that like we should, but if I'm going to get up and ride the bike, I go down at 8:45 and I try to be asleep by 9 o'clock so I can get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and exercise. Avoid trying to force sleep. If you're not sleepy, don't try to go to bed and sleep yet. Exercise regularly for 20 minutes or more, preferably 4 to 5 hours before bedtime. Did everybody get that back there? Avoid caffeinated beverages after lunch. Now that means, Tab,
I agree with that.
I hate to tell you,
that.
Avoid alcohol near bedtime. There's no such thing as a nightcap. Alcohol interferes with sleep. Avoid smoking anytime at all, but especially after 5 o'clock. Don't go to bed hungry. So if you're on a diet, no good. Avoid prolonged use. Now, Jane, if you listen to this, prolonged use of light-emitting screens before bedtime. That includes YouTube and Trey Gowdy on your cell phone. Deal with your worries before bedtime. Now, long ago they said a good marriage is wrapped around don't go into bed mad at each other, but that's not all of them. The stock market's at 25,000. Quit worrying about your 401k. I think that the president's doing the right thing. Quit worrying about this nasty book. And then when you got all that fixed and you go to bed, that's fine. Now,
try to clear your mind.
Clear your mind
before.
Don't go to bed angry. Kiss your wife even if things haven't gone well. You know, forgive the world for what's going on. You know, we're lucky. We're here alive. We're in the greatest country on earth. Don't go to bed with some thing on your mind. We're in great shape here. Quit complaining. What's that Eagles song? Get over it. It's a great song. Now back to the question.
Back to the question.
I sleep 3 or 4 nights well, and then I sleep poorly several nights. There's 2 to 3 ways, different types of sleeping poorly. One, I don't fall asleep easily. That's sleep initiation disorder. The second is midnight. I get up in the middle of the night and I wake up and I can't go back to sleep. Well, every man in this room wakes up in the middle of the night for reasons that are not related to pathology, and then they take some time to go back to bed. And that middle of the night awakening disorder of a type of insomnia doesn't occur 3 days in a row with 2 days of good sleep. And if you have a problem falling to sleep as a sleep disorder, that's going to happen 7 nights in a row and not 2 or 3 nights out of 7. So those things have specific medications that can be given by your primary care physician and take care of sleep onset disorder, sleep prolongation disorder, meaning that you wake in 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, can't finish, or that you wake in the middle of the night, and those do require you to see the doctor.
Well, coming out of the holiday season, folks, we had this question from a couple weeks ago that we did want to get in when we had Dr. Whaley back here on the couch. Are poinsettias, are the poinsettia plants poisonous? And I've heard this before, this discussion. We had several during the holidays, and several in our household developed a rash. Is this a poisonous plant?
Read that second part real carefully there about the rash.
We had several during the holidays, and several in the household developed a rash.
Okay, there's a big difference between developing a rash and poisonous. There is this sort of urban legend that the poinsettia will kill you if you eat any of it or let it touch you or anything. The poinsettia is the name that we in this country use for the floral plant that we buy when we bring home at Christmas. But the other official names of that plant are euphorbia. Euphoria, that doesn't sound too bad, does it? Christmas sap, milky sap, and pond. Well, they keep talking there about the sap, don't they? So that must sound like turpentine or something. The sap of a poinsettia does cause a a type of a rash that is absolutely harmless. It's just a little bit like poison ivy, but it would be 5% what poison ivy does. It's just a little redness and stuff. You go wash it off and it's gone the next day. And it is not poisonous to you. If you do eat a good deal of it, you can get nausea and you can get diarrhea. Now, the poinsettia is poisonous to pets if they eat it. So, hear from the Pet Animal Poison Control Center. Aren't we great to know that the animals have a poison control center? Here's what happens to the pets that chew and eat your poinsettia. They drool. Well, that sounds like our dogs, doesn't it? They lick their lips. That doesn't sound a whole lot different than the dog anyway. They get a dermal irritation, redness, swelling. That sounds like they got into something they shouldn't. And then the other two are vomiting and diarrhea. So, yes, if a puppy starts chewing on the poinsettia, he can have an adverse outcome. If the cat chews on a poinsettia, they can have an adverse outcome. So keep your.
But you and I could experience a minor rash.
Yeah, we won't. It's very rare. But somebody who has very sensitive skin in the house could. So don't worry about the poinsettia.
Well, we want to thank Georgia Cancer Specialists for always sponsoring this segment with Dr. Whaley Ask the Doc. Nobody leaves today, Dr. Whaley, without their game prediction. Nobody can leave the couch today. Do you have a game prediction? Can you give us your game prediction Monday night?
Yes, Monday night, Colombia plays Bolivia. Is that not the game you want me to? Is that the game you want me to talk about?
No, Doc.
Oh, okay. There will be a football game in South America on Monday night. It occurs at 8:30.
Usually,
and there will be millions who watch it on television around the world.
With all due respect, Dr. Whaley, usually it's me they try to keep focused, not you.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, usually it's me. Okay, so let's bring it back. Monday night, Mercedes-Benz Dome or
Atlanta.
In Atlanta.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Alabama, Georgia. Try it again.
Okay, well, number one, I'm proud of the fact that it's going to do two Southeastern Conference schools against each other.
Absolutely. Okay.
Second, I think the pupil and the teacher going together against one another on the field is the height of the way this sports activity works. I love it. The storyline of some of these young people that are there that have overcome great adversity in their lives. They were born into poverty. They were living with their grandmother. They were homeless. They lived in a car. I mean, you can't beat that story. So whoever wins that ball game, we all should be proud. Second, as you know, I've taken care of professional athletes for 42 years, and I've been on the sidelines of hockey and soccer and football and baseball and everything else, and the ball bounces differently at different times. And I've watched the Zebras win the game or lose the game where the athletes didn't win or lose the game. So taking into a fact that the ball can bounce funny and that the Zebras can steal it and that it's a wonderful opportunity for two great schools and two great groups of people to compete, I believe that on this particular night and this particular atmosphere, this is a home game for both. This stadium is what, 65 miles from Athens and not 85 miles from Tuscaloosa. I really think that Georgia probably will have the better go of it this night. They haven't been there before, and I think it's their time. And I agree with the speaker. I do not believe that it's going to be any 35 to 39 or anything like that. And I think it's going to come down to a touchdown or less. He said 6 points, and I believe at the end of the day that Georgia will win.
Georgia wins, end of the day. So we have one Georgia. I would go ahead and say two. We'll see what our group thinks later on. When we come back, it's going to be time for our all-star panel. Jane is back. Happy to have Jane back. We'll let Bruce and Rick set in for a little bit, but that's our all-star panel. We always want to thank Georgia Cancer Specialists for providing this segment. And I always don't like to, if you've prepared something, but I hate to squeeze it down in time, but is there something you wanted to share with the audience before we
Well, I can't get out of here without saying that we have an epidemic now of the flu-like illness
Yes.
in North Georgia. And the difference between the flu-like illness and the real flu, people get really wrapped up in it. It does make a heck of a lot of difference whether you've got the flu or the flu-like illness. If you haven't had your flu shot, go get it. The symptoms of the flu-like illness are going to last a week less than the symptoms of the flu, and they're going to be treated exactly the same, which is fluid. Stay home, don't sneeze on anybody, and take Advil and Tylenol for the fever and let it run its course. And only if you've got a temperature of over 101.5, you've got chest pain, you begin to cough up something, and you think you're getting pneumonia, do you need to bother the ER?
Thank you, Dr. Whaley. We appreciate it. This segment of Ask the Doc, again, brought to you by Georgia Cancer Specialists. If you have a question for Dr. Whaley, send us an email, info, I-N-F-O, info@fetchernews.com, and put in the subject, Ask the Doc, and we'll get those to Dr. Whaley. And again, we appreciate him. It's right after these messages, it's time for the All-Star panel, and maybe we'll discuss the Steve Bannon feud with Donald Trump, stock market up 25,000, DACA, the Dreamers, build the wall. We have so much right after these messages.
Red shirts on Fridays.